What made you think that you wanted goat milk in your coffee this morning?
I went to the shops late last night with my housemate and I was like, ooh, goat milk. Why is no one on that train?
There's a reason why no one's drinking
I know.
it.
There's a reason why I was on the bottom shelf.
It's got like dust on it. It's like, like 2 months like overdue on the expiry.
I was like, I have discovered something new that no one else knows about.
Not going there again, are you, mate?
No.
No more goat milk.
No goat milk.
Just stick with the goat latte, thanks.
Okay, the goat latte. I'll go for a goat latte. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Attitudes with Andy. If you're watching, you might realize we have no headphones on. We're crazy.
It's my fault.
It's Ferg's fault. But anyway, today I have one of the most beautiful, happy humans I have ever met. He is a gym enthusiast, aka a PT. He is a nature lover. He does, is it slacklining?
Slacklining.
Highlining over like really cool mountain things. He's a passionate health advocate, but most of all, he is a beautiful friend of mine. And I'm very excited to have him on because we're going to be talking all about health and well-being and how we can optimize ourselves to be the most loving, happy creatures out there. So you guys are going to get lots of giggles and lots of insights in today's episode. So welcome, Ferg.
Boom. Thank you. Beautiful intro. And just epic to catch up to. It's been a while.
I'm nervous.
Well, it's been years, dude. Like, when was the last time you were at Witness to Fitness?
Yeah. I think a few people know this. I was a PT for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Not a good one, but an enthusiastic one.
Yeah. That's like one of the main qualities
Yeah.
of a trainer. Enthusiasm. Like, you definitely brought the energy.
Yeah, I'd be like, I can't do a pull-up, but it's pull-ups now.
1 million pull-ups, please.
1 million pull-ups. But yeah, it's been a hot minute.
It has.
Where I wanted to start with is I wanted to say, how are you going, but really going today?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Straight into the deep stuff.
Yeah.
Let's dive right in. How am I? I'm really well at the moment. I'm in a really good place at the moment. Yeah, a lot of change coming up for me, but I'm excited about the change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've actually transitioned out of the face-to-face PT for the most part. I'm not really taking many PT sessions anymore. Transitioning to an online PT kind of space.
Nice.
So that I can travel and move around the world and experience, just more of what I love doing in various countries around the world. I've always wanted to do that. Excuse me. I haven't spent more than like a couple of weeks away from Brisbane, believe it or not. So I'm keen to get out there and spend a good chunk of time traveling. So that's the plan. And I'm working pretty hard at making that little vision come to reality so I can get out there and get amongst it. And that's kind of where I'm at now. So exciting times for sure.
Huge.
Yeah.
The second thing I wanted to ask you is that you recently did a talk at the Brotherhood Gym.
I did.
For Integrated Essentials. For anybody listening who doesn't know what it is, it's an event that comes on maybe like once or twice every like 2 or 3 months or something. And you were one of the guest speakers.
I was, yeah.
So
shout out to the Brotherhood guys.
Shout out to the Brotherhood.
Legends.
What was your topic? What did you speak about? What did you bring to the table?
The theme for that particular event, the Integrated Essentials event, was finding your edge. That was the theme. And I met Guy, absolute legend. Love that man.
Beautiful.
I met him a while back on a photo shoot, and he
for
said,
OnlyFans?
Shh, we're not supposed to talk about that. You said
That's
you
his
wouldn't talk
online
about that.
business.
Guy do very well on OnlyFans. Just
So
quietly.
would you. Back yourself.
Yeah, maybe we can do like a feature.
Moving on.
Moving on. So I picked him up from the gym and we drove out to the location, and it was probably like, I don't know, 30-minute drive, and we just clicked. I was like, oh, this guy's such a legend. Just very similar, values, and just approach to life, and we had all the same similar interests and everything like that. And I loved what he was doing with the space and with the men's group, because that's kind of what I want to go into as well, is hold space for, you know, men to just help them step into themselves a little bit more and find that community, because there's not really that many communities out there that are doing that. So I loved what he was doing with the space, and he said, "Oh man, we'll get you on for a guest speaker one time on the Integrated Essentials." I was like, "Oh, that sounds sick." So that was something that was in the back of my mind, and then he invited me along, and I was a bit hung up on like what I wanted to talk about. I was just like, "Oh, like, you know, what is it? What is the best way that I can bring value to these people that have, you know, paid for this event?"
Pressure.
Yeah, I was just like, what can I bring to the table here? And I think the approach that I came from was that, you know, one of the things that I feel like I've taken away from the practices that I involve myself in, that being highlining, rock climbing, outdoor recreation stuff, is that pursuing activities and practices that induce a little bit of fear and stress and anxiety, you know, in a healthy manner and safe manner, of course, are really healthy for you. You know, they allow you to understand and break down what those reactions are within us. You know, like, what is stress? What is anxiety? What is fear? You know, if you're exposing yourself to practices and spaces, excuse me, that
now I need to do that.
if you're exposing yourself to those emotions in a really safe manner, you can break them down and understand them, and then you can then take what you've learned from that and apply it to your daily life, because we experience those emotions very regularly in our day-to-day life. And a lot of the time we don't realize that we're feeling stress, or we're feeling anxiety, and we're feeling, you know, fear. These are things that can weigh on us but without us even realizing. But for example, with slacklining, you stand up on the slackline and all of a sudden you're stressed. You're like, whoa, your body gets tense. You're fighting your mind to convince yourself that you're capable of balancing. You know, your mind's going, jump off, this is too crazy. But then the other side of you is like, no, stay on, you know, you want to fight this a little bit. So practices like that can be really helpful to break down those emotions and understand them better. So that's what I kind of wanted to bring to the table with the Integrated Essentials. Run them through like a bit of a slackline workshop. So I set 3 little slacklines up and talk about the fundamentals of slacklining and the physical and mental side of it. And it was epic. Like, there was a couple of guys that just relentlessly kept having a go, just jumping on, jumping off, jumping on, jumping off. And one of the guys was walking forwards and backwards by the end of the day, and he'd never slacklined before.
Whoa.
I was like, whoa, like that is mind blowing. That was the fastest progression I've ever seen in someone.
Who was that?
Oh my God, I forget his name.
Oh, awkward
Sorry,
if he's
guys.
listening here.
Sorry. Yeah, if it comes back to me, I'll shout him out. But it was just beautiful. Lots of very open-minded, just wholesome individuals, and so much enthusiasm. Just non-judgmental space where we can just hone in on those beautiful practices that make us feel a little bit alive, feel a little bit thrilled, but at the same time, you know, just those spaces are super important. You know, having those practices, introducing people to those practices, like the breath work. We did a bit of breath work. We did some meditation. We did the sound bowl healing as well. Georgia, Guy's partner, did some sound bowl healing, and
she's epic.
She's such a legend. And you know, it's just all of that combined. It's just like, wow, this is just like an overload of just like beautiful practices. And I think that's absolutely needed in society today.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that you kind of said how it's good to put yourself in stressful situations, like controlled stressful situations, because like otherwise, we don't know how we react, and then we don't realize that maybe we are in a heightened stress state all the time. I feel like sometimes you can be in those states and then not realize you're in them.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think the slackline has been the greatest teacher for me. I found slacklining in quite an apprehensive and cluttered period of life, and it was so interesting to see how the simple practice of just going to the park, setting up a slackline and standing on it was just a tool that allowed me to just like hone in on the things that were limiting me. So self-confidence, self-belief, stress, anxiety, a little bit of fear, uncertainty, all of these things. they were limiting me. They were consuming my mind on a regular basis throughout each day. And to have a practice where I was able to just go to the park and like, you know, be incredibly present. You know, like for example, you stand up on the slack line and as I said before, like you feel that pressure, you know, to either fight to stay on or cave into that self-limitation in your mind that says, oh, you shouldn't be capable of balancing on this thin little 1-inch piece of rope, you know. But then when you fight that and you choose to push that voice aside and tap into that higher self, that voice that says, no, you can do this, you are capable of this. You feel the line calm and you feel yourself flow and you just get back into that state. And then that's a win, you know. And then I would go away from those little sessions in the park with more confidence than I did going into it because I had wins. You know, I was having those like multiple little wins, and obviously you see progression. I was setting the lines up slightly longer every time I went to the park, and I would try and get across without falling. And every time it's a journey from one side to the other. It's, you know, you start walking and then, the voice creeps in and you have to confront that. You know, the line gets tense, you get tense. And then you have this confrontation with yourself, like in that moment, and you have to find ways to overcome that self-limitation within you. And when you do, the line will respond to how you feel. It'll just calm. And then you keep stepping. And then you might confront that again, you know, a couple of steps from there. And then you calm it down. It's just that it's such a journey every time, you know, and I feel that especially with highlining as well. It's just like that amplified times 10 because of course you're like so high up in the air. You know you're safe, but like your brain is telling you like, what the fuck are you doing up here, man?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, for some context, Ferg doesn't just do it in the park now. You're like fucking, you have like some big, like I don't even understand how you put the slack line from one side to the other.
It's probably the most common question we get.
Because like there's a massive fucking drop.
So in order to get the line across now, we're very lucky. Like technology has come a long way. So we actually use one of these, a little drone.
No way.
Yeah. So we tie a fishing line to the drone, fly it over to the other side. We have a team of people on the other side. They catch the fishing line. We attach on this side a tag line, like a paracord to the fishing line. They pull it over. And then we attach the paracord to the slack line and then they pull that over. So it's like a 3-step process.
No way.
And then it's the same sort of process to take it down minus the fishing line. But back in the day, they had to use, you know, when there weren't drones, basically the drones have opened the door up to set up much longer high lines. Like down in Sydney, the Sydney boys just recently rigged a 1.2 kilometer high line.
How do you even tighten it that tight?
You got to use like a winch.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, surely you can't do that by hand.
No. So back in the day, they had to use the same sort of fishing line process, but with like a bow and arrow, slingshots, you know, just throwing rocks across, but like you could only go so far, right? So it's really opened the door to set up much longer and higher high lines, which is awesome for us.
Wow. Is it dangerous? Like, what happens if it just snapped?
Well, there's... What are you doing? What are you doing, man? No, it's possibly one of like the safest extreme sports that you can do. It looks ridiculous and it looks so scary and so dangerous. But if you do look at a high line, you'll see that there's a line that someone is walking on and then there are loops. You'll see the big loops. So essentially there's 2 high lines taped together. One of them is tensioned and the other is a backup in case the main line fails. And at each anchor point, depending on what you're rigging to, so let's say if you're using natural anchors and you're tying around a big tree, the tree has to be a certain diameter and you have to assess the tree and make sure it's, you know, it's healthy, it's strong, and you have multiple, we call them slings or span sets around the tree to attach the main line, the backup line, and then often we'll have another rope that goes back to another tree. So there's multiple points of contact, you know, in case if one thing fails, basically there's another thing to catch that thing. Everything's backed up. So once you tie in, essentially you're safer than everyone else standing there on the side of the cliff or wherever it is that you are. So it's incredibly safe. The equipment takes a lot of pressure. So it's all measured in kilonewtons, and 1 kilonewton is 100 kilograms of force. And most high lines go to about 20 kilonewtons on average, so about 2 tons worth of pressure it takes to snap these things.
Oh, okay. I thought it was meant like the weight it could hold. I was like, who is that heavy? I'm driving my dump truck ass.
Yeah, it's very strong, very strong. So, there's like you can hang a small car off these high lines, you know what I mean? But your brain doesn't care. When you're out there, it's just like, what are you doing out here, man? You fall and die right now. But like, you just have to remind you that was a big thing for me. Like, I had to understand the safety side of things before I could enjoy myself.
And that's so fair, because it's our human instinct to not want to die.
Yeah, 100%. Or like the first time I got on a high line, I had this like, this was a great lesson, like not to have expectations. This is where the hardest lesson about expectation came through for me. First time I got on, I had this expectation that I could walk across 30 meters in the park. Therefore, I could walk across a 30-meter high line. And that was absolutely not the case. Like, I got out there and with all this confidence thinking that I was going to be able to get across. And I got out there and all of a sudden everything I was like, holy shit, like, how is this set up? How strong is this equipment? What's happening back there at the end? Because I have no idea how that's set up. Like, all of that just rushed through my mind and it just crippled me. Like, I was frozen, and I managed to stand up on the first go, didn't take any steps, but it just absolutely crippled me. And I went in and I was just defeated. I was just like, no, I don't think this is for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so scared.
What made you want to retry it again?
That little voice in my head saying, you got to go back and conquer that, man. It was a whole year before I went back and
no way
had another go. And it was really interesting how it happened, actually. It was about a year of, this was in a period where I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, I guess I was experiencing my own version of what depression may feel like. Not really sure about my direction in life and where I wanted to take
How old were you at this point?
It's about 20, 21. And yeah, I found myself just constantly thinking about it. I was just like, I feel like highlining is going to be the thing that allows me to step into myself, step into my confidence, that version of myself that I've been envisioning. And I avoided every highline meet, and I basically cut contact with a lot of the guys that were in that community for that reason alone, because I just thought I wasn't capable of doing it. And I got invited along to a festival I was a +1 from a friend, just totally random. I saw a couple of highlines set up at this festival. I was just
Is this at Yonder?
No, this was a festival out in the Scenic Rim. I think it was called, Arcadia was the name of it. It was a small time festival. It was like maybe 300 or 400 people there. It was really small.
Yeah.
And there were highlands there. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I was like standing around a fire that night, and the guy that guided me onto my first highline a year before was there, Dan Woollerstuff. Shout out, bro.
Thanks, Dan.
He guided me onto my first line. And yeah, he was like, Ferg, what's up? And I was like, hey, man. He was just like, bro, we've just been spending the last couple of days rigging the same lines up on gravel. The 30-meter high line that you walked across a year ago is up there. Like, you got to come back and jump on it. And I was like, okay, universe, like, I get it. I understand. It was like a perfect opportunity, And over the course of that year, I'd been spending a lot of time in the park slacklining, a lot of time training, just because I loved it. It was still my thing that I loved doing. So you were
still doing it. You just never went to the high line.
Didn't want a high line again.
Yeah, okay.
But I did. It was like that. Yeah, it annoyed me enough for me to perhaps like attract that experience again. And so I walked up there, and the expectation was the opposite this time. I expected that I was just going to stand up and take one step, and I was just happy to get out there. I was like, I just want to get out there. I just want to try and do my best and like have no expectations, and we'll see how it goes. And I got up there and I did all the things that I didn't do the first time. Like I hung from the line with my hands like this, and I just let go, and I fell like that far onto the leash. I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
So you're just like testing, like it'll catch you.
Yes, I was just testing. I needed that security that it was safe. And then I sat on the line, and then I fell off, and that was a little bit more intense because, like I had to fall a little bit further. I was like, that was a bit scary, but now I'll try and stand up and then I'll throw myself off from standing position. And that took a while for me to actually just get the courage to stand up. I stood up and I was just like, just as tense as I was the first time. I was like, oh my God, this is terrifying. And I was like, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. Just throw yourself off, throw yourself off. So I just went, oh, I just like threw myself off head first. And the line caught me. And I just remember just being like, oh my God, like, okay, the worst is out of the way. Like, I know that the line catches me. I know that it's safe. I can have a go and try and get some steps in now. And I gathered myself, sat on the line, calmed it down. And yeah, stood up, balanced there for a little bit on my feet and just tried to find my balance and just my composure. And I started taking steps and I started to feel like quite unexpected. I felt quite good. Like unexpectedly, I was just like, wow, okay, I'm actually walking here. Like, holy shit. And I just stayed in that mindset of one step at a time, not trying to rush to the end. Because if you rush to the end, it takes you away from the moment and then you misplace your foot and then you fall. So you got to be so present. And I made it to the other side and I sat down and I just broke down. I just started crying. I was just like, oh my God. Yeah. Just such a long like year of doubt and limitation, and to see all of that come together and to walk across that exact same line a year later, like was just like pretty profound. And yeah, that was a big moment. And that's when I realized I was like, this is going to be my thing. This is going to be what I pursue. Like, and yeah, it was really cool. It was a cool moment.
Yeah, it was so powerful because your mind was like, you can't do it, like it'll fail. And then you did it and you were like, wait, now I have evidence that I can do it.
It was still terrifying. Yeah, like for about like maybe 20 highlines after that, it was still like driving to the highline location, just butterflies, like nervous as like, but then it just more and more trust came through and in my ability, and obviously I progressed the more I did it, and it was really like just showing up. Like it was just showing up to the location, getting myself out there, and just trying. You know, and if I did that enough times, I would get better and it would become more comfortable. And now I'm in a place where I can, although it's still scary, it's always scary every single time I go out there. It's like I'm confronting that fear, but I'm at a place now where I can really enjoy it. And there's so much belief in my ability now that I can just relax and flow and enjoy it. And it's really cool to be in this place now. But one of my friends who highline as well made a really interesting point a while back. He said to one of the beginners that we came out with us on a trip, he was just like, man, enjoy this time while it's scary, because you kind of lose that a little bit as you get used to it. You know, it's like anything, you do something so much that you get used to it, but nothing is quite as thrilling as those first, 10 to 20 times that you get out there and you just like absolutely shitting yourself.
Am I gonna die?
Yeah, that's as crazy as it is, like coming off those highlines after like really confronting that fear, like whoa, you feel so alive. You're just like, whoa, what did I just do? Like I feel it's so empowering. So yeah, for anyone that's pursuing any type of new activity that is like fear inducing, enjoy that starting process, that the start of that journey where there's lots of fear, because that dissolves away eventually when you overcome that enough. And that's actually quite an enjoyable period. Even though it's a powerful period, even though it's terrifying. That's where the power is, baby.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you know Brené Brown?
I don't think so.
Oh, just a bit of a legend. Anyway.
Sounds like a legend.
She always, she talks about vulnerability, and she says how when you're in a situation where you feel vulnerable, it might feel like horrible or scary and there's self-doubt, but at the same time you feel so alive.
Boom, well said.
Yeah, and it's so true. So it's like as long as we keep putting ourselves in vulnerable situations, we're always going to feel alive.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of flatlining.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's it. Like, it's those, very well said as well. It's those activities, those practices that you really remember. I feel like what drives me a lot is like, get to the end of my days, I'm going to remember those moments where I felt most alive. I'm going to be like, whoa, like I remember standing up on that high line, like looking out over this view and just life pulsing through me, you know. If you let fear hold you back from experiencing that, you'll regret it.
Totally.
So, you know, as long as it's safe, I feel like it's important for us to pursue those experiences. And it doesn't have to be highlining. Like, you don't have to go.
No.
You know,
everyone's like, well, shit, now I got to get into highlighting.
No, it doesn't have to be that. It can be anything. You know, you can, heights are a really, really good one, because all of us are a little bit scared of heights. You know,
I love heights.
Yeah, you love heights?
Like, I'm disgusting. I went parachuting or something, and we hopped out of the plane like
skydiving.
That's it, skydiving.
Yeah, but there is parachuting. Yeah,
there is
parachuting.
parachuting.
An element
anyway,
of it.
I went skydiving, and then I landed, and I was like, oh, I wish we would have went higher and for longer. Like,
how was that experience?
Love heights. Yeah, it was really good. I liked it.
You didn't seem phased at all. Were you like, what did you feel when the door opened on the plane?
I didn't have enough time to even feel nervous, because you're there for like 3 seconons and then you're just going.
Yeah,
but like I trusted them. I was like,
yeah.
But then I was like, worst things that happen is I die, but it'll be pretty instant. Do you know what I mean? Like, when it's out of my control, I'm like, well, I'm just going to put my faith in this person to keep me alive, and I'm just going to enjoy it.
Yeah, you fully trust them, hey?
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm just strapped at this dude's back, you know, like, but it'll be fine jumping out of a plane.
It'll be right.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. But then I remember I did like this speech at Bond University randomly in front of like a whole group of people. And then after that, and the friend who came skydiving with me was there as well. And afterwards I was like, hey, you remember like after skydiving how you felt? And he was like, yeah, I felt so good. I was like, yeah, I feel like 10 times that. I was like, that made me feel so much more alive than skydiving.
The speech made you feel more alive than skydiving?
Yeah.
Why was that?
It was just amazing. It just filled me with like so much joy and adrenaline, because I was fucking shitting myself.
How many people were there, do you think?
Not many, maybe like 100.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's still like a lot of people to talk in front of.
Yeah. But I was like shitting myself, and I didn't want to do it.
Do you find that more confronting than jumping out of a plane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I love
Fair
it,
enough.
but it's still confronting.
Yeah, fair enough. What's confronting about it?
I don't know, because in my mind I'm like, I feel fine, but then my body, my hand might be shaking, or my voice might sound shaky, and I'm like, what? Mentally I'm not nervous, but my body seems to be nervous.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's just like, why am I shaking right now?
Yeah.
Public speaking is hard.
Yeah.
That's a challenging one for a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's also like my favorite thing ever.
Say again.
It's like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, well, you could talk underwater, Andy. This is a perfect line of work for you. I think someone should come on and interview you on your podcast. But seriously, like, I'm super proud of you, because you've built this incredible thing, and it's such a beautiful platform for people to express their value. And I think the people the amount of people that listen to this and love this podcast is a testament to the character you are, and the way that you've gone about building this. And it's awesome to see, dude. Aww. Yeah, so keep at it. There's a lot of good. I've taken a lot away from listening to the guests on this podcast, and even your little snippets where you're just talking as well. Like, there's a lot of juicy value there, and yeah, this is perfect for you, dude. I couldn't imagine like a different career for you. Like, now that you've got this going.
Thank you.
It's good. It's just going to keep going as well, isn't it?
Oh, we'll be the number one day.
Hell yeah, baby. Yeah, where do you want to take it? Like, what's the goal there?
Yeah, number one podcast in the world.
Boom. Coming at you, Joe Rogan.
So big that I'm... Yeah,
let's go, Joe.
Joe, you better be scared. Anyway, enough about me.
Okay.
Uno reverse. We're back to you.
Boom, deflection.
I would actually like to speak about... No.
What do I have to do to grab a sip
Yeti?
of water? Yeti, yeah, shout out to Yeti. They're doing good things. Sorry, what were you saying?
Water break, hang on.
Water break.
What the fuck is in your water bottle?
Barocca.
Oh, it looked like oil.
Just greasing up the windpipe.
Just a bit of olive oil.
Olive oil. Imagine. What a freak. No. No oil in the water bottle.
Do you know what I suddenly remembered? Is when we were in the gym and we were trying to do that cool yoga trick, and then you were
the
like...
aqua yoga.
you were like holding me up and I was trying to do like a headstand, but like you were holding my shoulders up, that I was laughing so hard. And then you're like, stop laughing, hold it.
We got it though. We got it for a little bit.
Yeah, for like a
but
split
you couldn't
second.
hold your core on because you were cracking up so much.
So this is one of my toxic traits. I have this weird thing where like in situations I need to do anything with my body, I will just laugh. Wait, that sounds like I laugh during. Not like that. Hang on, wait.
Hope you don't.
Hang on.
You're one of those.
Hang on. Hang on. I'm gonna.
She's going now.
I don't know if I can keep this in. Okay, what I mean is one of the things that makes me laugh so much is moving a mattress.
What? That's such a random thing.
It's so awkward. You're just kind of like...
That's such a random thing
I know.
to laugh about. What is funny about that?
I don't know. But literally,
Where did that come from?
I don't know. It's just like heavy and awkward.
It is awkward,
and you're
especially
like,
those real floppy
shuffle,
ones.
and it's so funny because I've moved so many times in my life, or like moved in boarding school or college. Anytime someone needs to help me, I'm like, hey, just to let you know. I have to give them a warning
problem of mine.
that I will be crying with laughter. And I could be in the most average mood, but if I'm moving a mattress...
When you're ever having a shit day, you just go and move
No,
your mattress
literally.
around. That's so
Anyway.
bizarre, Andy, but I back it. It's fine. It's good.
Thank you. Oh, now I actually want to
It makes moving fun at least.
Yes.
You know, moving sucks. Usually moving mattresses is shit. But
Okay,
it makes it fun.
we need to bring the...
Yeah, we'll bring it back. This was bound to happen with us. Like I said, both of us did ADD.
We're like really serious. We're like, yes.
Should we talk about ADD?
Yeah, we can talk about ADD.
What were you going to ask before?
Yeah, so this is like really changing the mood, but I wanted to talk about, if you're open to it,
Always.
your period of going through depression and anxiety.
Mm.
I feel like a lot of people, especially young people, can probably relate. And
Sure.
especially you touch on feeling lost.
Mm.
Can you talk about that a little
Sure.
bit more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think it's, super important for us to talk about these things because
Yeah.
I remember when I was going through my version of what that felt like.
What did it feel like?
What did it feel like? Honestly, a lot of like physical symptoms, like colors weren't as vibrant, food didn't taste good, lost my taste.
Really?
Yeah, I lost cognitive ability. I found it actually incredibly hard to read and write. Yeah, and just lots of like social anxiety. Like I couldn't go out in public with like a lot of, I kept this hidden a lot, like I made a good effort to put my clown face on and, like act as if I was all good to all my friends and fam. But there were a few individuals that knew like the gravity of what I was going through. But, for the most part, like I was young, like I didn't really understand that. I thought that what I was going through was very unique to me. I was just like, no one else is going through this. I couldn't, and that's why I kind of felt like I couldn't open up. But the more I heard others open up about what they were going through, the more it made me feel like I wasn't alone. The more it made me feel like, okay, this is a normal thing for human beings to experience, and that made me want to open up more. And that's why I think it's important. Like if you open up about what you're going through, you never know, like there might be someone listening that is also going through a similar period and similar emotions and similar like challenges within themselves or external as well. And what you have to say about that can change someone's life. It can totally alter how someone feels about themselves or what direction they need to take or what they need to do next, like in order to kind of like help themselves through this period of challenge. So for me, it was, I guess like it stemmed from a period where like a lot of things happened at once. Like I'm not coming from a victim mindset right now, but like at the time I very much was victim. Like I came out of a relationship and the relationship was a little bit dysfunctional. I'm actually very good friends with that person now though.
Are you?
Yeah. Really interesting. Like a couple of years after the relationship, we connected again and like just had a good chat and just broke it down. And yeah, she's a legend. But at the time, like it was quite toxic for both of us in the relationship. So I came out of that. There was a lot of stuff that went on in that relationship that like I kind of took on. Like there was a lot of fighting, so like I had a lot of anger built up in me. You know, there were all sorts of things came through from that relationship that like were a part of me after I came out of it that I had to kind of weed out again. You know, my parents split up at the time as well, like around the same period. We moved out of our family home of like, you know, we had some property. It was like my safe space. I would go down to, like we had a paddock. It was beautiful. I'd go down there and that would be a nice space for me to just like disconnect. But we moved out of that into a busy little house on a main road. And, you know, my dog of 15 years passed away and he was like my best little buddy.
No.
So I was just like, fuck life. Like I came out of, you know, school just like super stoked and ready to just take everything on, and just got hit with a bunch of stuff, and I was just like, wow, okay, like is this what life is? Just like pain and suffering. You know, for me anyway, I was just taken back by it all, and there was probably about like, I don't know, maybe like 95% of my mind was like negative and limiting and anxious and stressed and fearful, and there was a small little voice in my head that was saying like, stick with it, man. Like, it's going to be okay. I believed that, like, that voice only just, like I said, like 5% of myself believed in that voice. But
did you think it was going to last forever?
I didn't think that. I thought that I was just going to exist like that forever, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought, like, it was to the point where I was so anxious about leaving my home. I didn't actually think that I would ever travel. Like, I didn't think that I would go overseas and travel. I didn't think that I would have the ability to even move out of home. I thought I was going to be like Brennan and Dale off Step Brothers, just like we won't go into the Step Brothers quotes. It could last for an hour.
Yeah. Great movie though. Ooh.
Oh God, I love that movie.
We're talking about something so deep, and then we're like Step Brothers.
Step Brothers.
Oh, the ADHD's kicking in.
You have to call me Dragon. No, so I
didn't want the sound.
Said it 4 times. That's wedding is horse shit. No, we gotta stop.
Sorry,
just to lighten things up a little bit. No. Okay, we'll bring it back. Bring it back. Yeah, so I found like this was where slacklining came in, right? I was just in this place where I was like, what do I dropped out of uni as well. That was another thing. So I had like very little direction for my life. What the fuck am I going to do? This is before I did my PT course or anything like that. Actually, no, I believe I did do my PT course at that point, but I had like dropped out and I didn't do the online modules. I was like, I gave up on it. And I was like, how the hell am I supposed to like actually coach someone, you know, when I don't have enough confidence in myself to, you know, I can't even coach myself right now. You know, like how am I, you know, I just did not feel like I was in a just position to have that type of role. So yeah, I was just doing landscaping at the time, just mowing lawns and stuff. I was like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. But yeah, it was taking myself to the park and slacklining. That saved me, I believe. It was just getting those small wins in the park and enjoying an activity for the first time. Like I stopped doing all the stuff that I love doing. Like I stopped surfing, skateboarding, you know, like I was doing a little bit of gym training, but I was a little bit injured at the time. I was just doing like bodybuilding kind of style training, not enough functional stuff, not enough activation work and rehab stuff, like just no stretching. And I just like, you know, obviously that's a recipe for injury. So I started experiencing injuries. I was just like, what can I do? And yeah, it was slacklining that pulled me out of it. And, you know, slowly I started to build my confidence back. And then I decided to delve into the online modules for my PT course, and I completed those. And then I got an opportunity working at a gym in Bowen Hills, and that's where it kind of started to go uphill from there. I found myself just feeling really, you know, obviously like an element of PT is you kind of have to break down the reason as to like why people are there training. And because I was, you know, quite a sensitive dude, and I was, you know, I'd experienced a lot in that period. You know, I had guys like, I don't know what it was about me, but like I had people open up to me about like why they were training. You know, it's just like, oh, I'm like insecure about my body, or like, oh, I'm going through like a bit of depression right now. You know, I'm here to make myself feel better, you know, and that made me feel better because I was like, wow, okay, like there's people here that are taking action towards their health and their mental health. They're open about what they're going through, which made me want to be more open. And it also, I was just like, I'm not alone. There's other people out there that are experiencing adversity, from a mental adversity and physical challenges as well. So yeah, I didn't feel so alone, and yeah, slowly just built my confidence up from there. But yeah, what I preach is, if anyone's going through a period like that, it's about showing up for yourself, even if it's just one day a week for an hour. You go and do something for yourself, and when you're in that state, you don't want to do anything for yourself. Like a lot of people, there's like a lot of animosity towards oneself when they're in that period. It's, you're not good enough. You're this, you're that. It's all negativity. But it's, if you can just hold on to that 5% of positivity, that's like, hey man, like go and try something new, go and do a new practice. That's why I think like my kind of what I want to preach is that there's a practice or multiple practices out there for everyone of equal value. It doesn't have to be slacklining. It can be training. It can be some sort of, I think creativity and depression, like creativity and art and depression go hand in hand. Someone I look up to said that, and yeah, that stuck with me because you can channel whatever it is that you're going through into art. Like some of the best, most impactful songs and pieces of art hold a lot of emotion. And, that's people channeling their emotion and what they're going through into their artwork. It's a way to express. It's a way to, harness those challenges and emotions that you're going through into something creative. You can channel that energy into it. So find a practice, pursue a practice. It doesn't matter what that is, and if you haven't found that yet, what do you got to lose? Keep looking, keep searching, try new things, show up to as many positive spaces as possible. If you've got super sad songs on your playlist, put those aside for a second. Start listening to happy music. Start listening to good podcasts like Attitudes with Andy. Shout out. Show up to brotherhood events or familyhood events. For example, like these wholesome spaces that, they just feed the soul in a really healthy manner. And at the start, it may not feel like it's working. Like you may just feel like that didn't work. But every time you show up for yourself in that manner, I saw it as like accumulating. It was like compounding. It's just like every slackline in the park, boom, there's another one in the bank. Every good podcast that I listen to, or like good, like even just a page of a self-help book, boom, into the compounding, that goes into the bank. It's just like constantly. And then over time, that little 5% of positivity turned into 10 and then 15 and 20. And now I'm, of course I have my days, I have my days when I have little periods where I wake up and I'm just like, I just don't feel like being, on top of it today. Like, you have those days where you wake up, you feel negative, but I've now equipped myself with practices and tools, that allow me to step back into myself when I'm feeling like that. So I would just say to anyone out there, if you're experiencing adversity, show up for yourself in as many different spaces as possible, try as many different practices as possible, and connect with really cool, groovy humans, and you'll slowly start to feel better and better and better.
Yeah. It is interesting how like the things that would make us feel better, we absolutely do not feel like doing. Yeah. So it's almost like you have to treat yourself like a child and be your own parent and be like, okay, you're just going to do this one thing. You're going to go to this one gym session and you're going to be around these people. Yep. Just do this one thing. You got this. Yeah. It's
those little things, and it's celebrating the little wins. I remember I would have these physical reactions within me when like I made a little bit of improvement. Especially after, just showing up for myself in, whatever fashion it was. Like if I showed up for myself, like I would just get this good little feeling, even if that lasted like 10 minutes and then I'd slip back into a negative pattern of thought, that's still a win. You got to celebrate that.
100%. Because you're changing habits and behaviors, and that ain't easy.
No, it takes a long time. it's one of those things that you're not going to, so many people say it. It's like almost a little bit oversaid, but like you're not going to wake up one day and you're just going to be good. You know, that's why I think it's so important to, and again, this is something people say all the time, but like enjoy the process. And I would encourage everyone to break that down and discover what that means to them. What does enjoying the process mean for you? Because we hear it all the time, you know, and that can just go straight over our head. I remember I heard that when I was going through my depression, and I was just like, yeah, right. As if I'm going to enjoy the process. This is why I think mindfulness is an incredible tool. I've had some massive, like, you know, breakthroughs while practicing mindfulness. And basically it's just like meditation, but to break it down simply, meditation, mindfulness, sometimes meditation has like a negative, like woo-woo, like connotation attached to it. But I think now it's becoming much more mainstream because like literally like every, you know, successful or highly credited individual out there practices mindfulness and meditation. It's just, so it's becoming much more mainstream, which is great because really all it is, like woo-woo stuff aside, it's a way to understand. Yeah, well, like that's what people say. It's like, oh, meditation's not for me. It's just like, well, do you want to understand your mind better? Like, because that's what it is. It's like your mind is all you are. Like it is the single most greatest asset that we all own, and nothing weighs up against our mind. We're nothing without it. So what can you do to further, like, better understand your mind at greater depth? Because how we understand our mind is how we respond to the world. It's like it's how we show up for our friends. It's how we show up for our work life. It's how we show up for our recreational life. It all is determined by how much we understand our mind and the nature of our mind. So mindfulness is just understanding your mind better. It's taking 10 minutes out of your day, minimum, to focus on the nature of your mind so that you are better equipped to respond to things in your daily life. And there's so many apps out there now that offer mindfulness practices. And that's another thing, like you don't see progress straight away in meditation or mindfulness.
No.
The first bit, you're just like, your mind's just going everywhere and like it's just stuff's going over your head, but just stick with it. Trust me, just stick with it.
Yeah, that's why it's hard for people to stick to it because you don't see progress. So I think maybe a better way to see progress is maybe get a piece of paper, put 14 squares on it, and then each day you do it, just tick it off, because then you're seeing like, oh my God, I'm doing it like this many days. Such a good tip in a row. Because
that's how you do it?
Yeah, that's awesome. I need that gratification.
Yes. Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? Getting that tick.
Yeah. Yes. Whereas like in the gym, you're going to see results pretty quickly, and like with your food, you can feel it pretty quickly how it affects you. Whereas like meditation, it does take its time. For sure. But I just wanted to touch on how you said you don't just arrive and you're done. How I interpret that, and I realized that maybe a month or so ago, is that the world is definitely an infinite game, right? It's just like we keep going. You don't just arrive at health and fitness. You don't just arrive at happiness or good relationships, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I don't need to keep doing any of these. It's sustaining that, and it's like you keep working out, you keep eating good food, you keep like having good conversations with your friends and family and stuff. And then when you look at things like that, you're like, okay, what can I do that's sustainable to have these habits for the rest of my life, and not just like for a hot girl era or you know. Yes,
habits, that's a key word there, you know.
Habits.
Great point. And I think it's, again, like this ties back to mindfulness as well. It's like it's about not making those things chores.
So ADHD, hey?
Boom, here we go.
What's that like?
It's fun. Distracting.
Yeah, I remember some of our conversations at the gym. Dude. It would be scat. And I remember one time speaking to you, and then like you suddenly just changed conversation to like the completely different, and I was so confused. I was like, what is happening?
What is going on?
Then I
met my match.
I didn't know. I'm not ADHD.
Why is that such a bad thing, bro?
Nah.
What are you trying to say?
No, I only get defensive because my whole life everyone's been like, yeah, you have ADHD, right?
Yeah, fair. That you must get sick of hearing that.
Oh, like I remember when I first
went to... But it's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, Totally. When I first went to college, somebody messaged me being like, hey, Annie, just wondering if I could please have some, like, they listed some ADHD drug.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, no, I don't have that. Why would I have that? And he was like, don't you have ADHD? I was like,
that must get so annoying, dude, actually, if someone just assumes that you have this diagnosis.
I
It's
love
like,
the drugs. I'm like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take them.
yeah, and I wouldn't give them to you.
Have you ever had ADHD drugs?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I've had them and my brain
was-
flatlined.
Real.
I hated it
Yeah.
so much.
That's what I mean. Like, I think these drugs are limiting.
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, if my future kids have ADHD, there's no way I'm giving them those drugs. No shame if somebody is listening and they take them. I get it. There's a time and a place for you. But
Totally.
for me personally, not that I have it.
For sure. Like, it got me through a few situations. Like, having, because my mind was like so distracted. So, like, for example, the PT course that I said that I went back and did, I used them to get through that. And that was at a time that I was like very, very distracted. You know, like I said, like I had a few limitations there cognitively, and I used that as a tool. But what it did was I would be, like I'd be on for a couple of hours that the stimulant was taking its effect. And I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's good. But then I would come down off the medication and I would just be 3 times as worse as I was before I took the medication. And it would be so frustrating not being up, because like with the medication, like you don't necessarily feel the stimulant. Like if you take a couple of them, like hell yeah, you'll feel it. But if I was just taking like half to like one dose, like half to one tablet, and I would, you don't feel wired. Like you're just like, you feel normal. And it's just so annoying. Like I found it really frustrating that I could not feel that. Like once the stimulant wore off, like I couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate, and I was just like, I just wanted, that's why I think it's so dangerous and people get so addicted to them. And and that's where it can be really harmful. And I found myself like almost slipping into that, like becoming too reliant on them. Like I was taking them, going out in social situations to deal with my social anxiety. I was taking them like in study situations. I was just like, and these things are powerful. They're like it's strong. Yeah, it's amphetamine. It's like another version of meth.
Jesus Lord.
Jesus, like giving these kids meth. And it's like it was. I'm much better off without them, to be honest. Much better off. And what was really interesting, when I was a kid, like I was on them and it had the same effect. It was kind of like a blanket effect. It was just like cover up the problem, but it's still there. You're still going to deal with it later. But what was really interesting was I actually went on a program for 2 years. It was called the DOOR program. Unfortunately, they don't do the DOOR program anymore, but it was an ADHD program where instead of like taking medication, you did exercises in the morning and evening every day. And they were hand-eye coordination exercises, like throwing like joggle balls around, balancing on Bosu balls, balance work, like standing on one leg. There was like a little balance disc, like Bosu ball that you used to stand on, like the Swiss ball. Like that was what allowed me to focus my mind. It was motor learning, and a lot of ADHD people and kids are the same. They're much more like visual and motor learners rather than retaining information through a book or in that form. It's much better off like explained and shown physically rather than like I said, like reading from a book. So that was how my brain operated. And a lot of people with ADHD, the labelings, I think is a little bit wrong. It's just like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's like you're telling a child that they have a deficit and they're disordered. And that definitely became a part of my identity as a kid. Like I got, learning support growing up. So I felt limited. I felt disordered. I felt, like I had a deficit. And that wasn't the case. It was only the case in some areas that I particularly like wasn't interested in or like stimulated by. But when it came to like movement, like I loved that stuff. Like I loved moving. I loved playing sport. I loved adventuring, exploring, like doing all of these sorts of things, but that didn't have the same weight of value. I guess I wasn't told like, your career can be aligned with what you're good at, you know, which is motor learning and movement. You know, it was just like, oh, you're inept, you know, like you're not capable of learning properly. It's just like, well, I just learned in a different manner. So it's about finding the right environment for your child to learn, or for your friend to learn, or for just for yourself to learn in general. And it's just embarking on a journey to discover what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, I haven't been tested for ADHD. I don't know if I have.
I don't think you need to.
I also
Doesn't matter.
I found a letter from like my school.
Yeah.
Or was it a psychologist? Someone, no, it was a doctor. It was a doctor like referring me to go get a proper test.
Yeah.
And I just never went and did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but why I want to disclaim that I don't know if I actually am, but I'm curious whether this is something you experience. I personally, and this is like, I think a superpower, I can't work on something I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
Like, I could sit down. The other day I sat down for 10 hours and did podcast stuff.
Oh, such a good point.
And
I
like,
was hoping you would talk about this.
It was absolutely fun. I loved it. The day flew by.
Amazing.
I like didn't get distracted. I was just like on a mission and it re-energized me, right?
Boom.
But then like at uni, if I had to sit down and do stuff, or like in the past I had like a marketing job that I just didn't really care about, and I just hated every second of it, and I got just so distracted and I just couldn't do it. Maybe this is a normal, just human thing, but like I cannot just like put up with it and just do the thing. Like I have to be
so
interested
distracted.
in it.
Yeah.
What about you? Is that
exactly the same, dude?
yeah?
Like, yeah, that's such a. I actually thought about making that point before I came on the pod today.
And then
So,
you
like,
forgot about it.
I got distracted, man. So it's so funny that you brought this up. You must have ADHD. But yeah, like you said, it's a superpower. Like, I'm exactly the same. As soon as I'm focusing on, this is why I dropped out of uni, because I was just like, I was hating it. I was just like, fuck. I'm just like, and like, it ruins your self-esteem because you get distracted. You don't do well in that subject, and you know, you're like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? But then again, like, yeah, I could focus my attention on something. Like I've been creating this online course, for example, which is like what I'm trying to transition from like face-to-face PT to online PT. And I have just been honed in on it. Like, just like you said, I can sit there for hours just working on it. Yeah. You know, and it's amazing, like, to see, like, it's the most comprehensive thing I've ever created. And I was just like, I haven't even created something like this that's, you know, at school. Like, this is, and like, I'm doing this myself. You know, and it's like, it's also something that, like, I'm sitting down and typing and writing. Like, you know, that's something that I found very challenging to do in school. But because it's a passion of mine and it's something that, you know, is going to, it's in alignment with my purpose and like the value that I want to share with the world. You know, there's that powerful incentive there and that drive. So I'm able to just sit there and work on it. And I had that same sort of thought. I was just like, if it's something that I'm interested in, I can focus on it. And I think I think everyone should pursue a career in something that they're interested in. Obviously, if you have 100%. The opportunity to pursue something that you're interested in, like, you gotta go and pursue that, you know, because otherwise you spend so much time at working, you know, it makes up most of your life, you know, so everyone says this, you know, go and do something that you love. Yeah. It's so much easier said than done, you know.
But I think whilst it might be hard to like pursue whatever you love, I think it's a lot harder to just accept a mediocre job and work that for 40 years. Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, no,
that terrifies me.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that perhaps are experiencing like limitation within their mind that are inhibiting them from pursuing a career that they're more interested in. And I would invite anyone who's in that position to pursue a practice that will bring more like confidence within themselves, you know, like, doesn't matter what that is, like, go and scare the shit out of you. Go skydiving, you know, go and do something scary like that, you know, where you have to overcome fear. Like, they're really powerful. It's a really powerful way to just like bring confidence within yourself and into your character. And, you know, if you save up a bit of money, like in your job, and like you take that leap to go and try something new, like, you know, you're not going to regret it. Like, what do you got to lose? You know, like worst case scenario, you go back and do the same job, you know, you just left, you know.
Yeah. I'd rather just know than be plagued with the what if.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Like we are, it sounds crazy, but like we're already like, all of our fates are the same. Like everyone passes away. You know, that's just what's going to happen. You know, like we're all like, I think Steve Jobs said it in one of his university commencement speeches. It was just like, we're already naked. You know, like we're all going to die. Like you've got nothing left to lose. And, you know, like why not just take the chance now? You know?
Yeah.
So obviously it's like easier said than done. Like you got maybe a family, you got a mortgage, you got like a lot of people that rely on you.
But a lot of the listeners are in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And I always think this is the time to do it. I
Sure.
have no kids. I have no mortgage.
Oh, for
I
sure.
have no partner.
With you, dude. It's all gravy, baby.
So it's fun.
Well, the relationship with yourself is most important, dude.
Exactly. Thanks. But anyway, this is meant to be motivational. I was kidding, guys, about the...
Stop playing the victim, Andy. Fuck, dude.
I'm happily single. And yeah, this is the time, right?
Yeah, it is.
And like costs of living are really low.
Yeah.
Like keep it low so then you don't have to
For sure.
maintain a high paying job.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think touching on that point though, like I remember I was a little bit upset that I was single and I was just like, you know, I would love a partner, but I felt like this message come through pretty clearly. And it was that you will be rewarded with a partner that best suits you when you have honored yourself and your own character and your own relationship with yourself. And a lot of the time that's how it works. You know, it's when you become the person that you want to be with, that's when that person will show up. And yeah, it's been a long process for me, like, you know, going through developing that relationship with myself. But like on that same camping trip, that Namboida trip, I believe I may have microdosed with some medicinal mushrooms.
Yeah, okay.
And thoughts came through pretty strongly. Very strong intentions behind every time I go and do that as well, by the way. I don't think anyone should just go and take a heroic dose of psychedelics. It's incredibly powerful substances, and you know they should be treated with respect. But I remember just meditating in this state, and this overwhelming like feeling and sensation of like me being my own best friend came through. And I remember it was really interesting. Adam touched on it, I think, in the potty with you. But I was just like, wow, like no one has carried you through more adversity than you have carried yourself through it. So no one's been through more challenges with you than you. No one's, you know, wiped more tears away from your face than you have. No one's experienced more beautiful moments with you than you. You've shared every moment with yourself from start to finish. You've showed up for yourself through everything that you've been through. And even through the darkest periods where you're experiencing the most adversity, the most confliction with yourself, you've still been there, like holding on. And I think that's really important to think about, like when you're talking to yourself in a negative manner, just think like if your best friend shows up and says, hey man, like I'm feeling pretty upset right now. Are you going to say like, yeah, you should feel upset. You suck. You're not worthy. You know, like, fuck no, you're not going to say that to your best friend. Like you're going to be there for them. Like you're going to put your arm around them, you're going to give them a hug, and you're going to lift them up. And, you know, that's your best friend. You know, you may have spent 5 years of your life with that person. You know, you've spent, in my case, 28 years with me. And I've been there for myself through all of it. You know, like we got to show up for ourselves in the same manner that we've showed up for ourselves through our whole life. And I think that's a really important thing to think about. It's just like you are your own best friend. Like no one, you know, obviously like friendships and family and everything like that are so important. They make life, you know, enjoyable, but you spend every second with yourself. So honing in on that relationship is the most important thing that you can do, because that's when you show up best for your partner, you know, your friends, your family, your work colleagues, and just the random person in the street. That's when you're the best version of yourself, when you're showing up for yourself. Yeah. So yeah, what does that look like for you? What does that mean to you? How can you do a better job in that area? Yeah, they're good questions to ask. Like, yeah, what does it look like for me to show up for myself more and appreciate that bond that I have with myself?
Yeah. And the bond gets stronger the more you kind of live in alignment with and be true to yourself. I feel like the more I do things that are just meant for me, even though I'm scared and I don't want to do it or I don't feel like doing it, and I do it, I always like that little voice in my head's like, I'm proud of you, like you go queen.
Yes.
And then when you're ignoring that and you're not showing up for yourself, that's when I think negative self-talk can take over. But how you speak to yourself is so important.
How do you speak to yourself?
How do I speak to myself?
Yeah.
Oh my God, ridiculously well.
Yeah, share a bit about that, man. That's great. That's great. I mean, you're one of the happiest, most positive people I know. So, like, I would only assume that you would speak to yourself in that same manner.
Oh,
but
thank you.
Yeah, what tips would you give people to speak to themselves in a more healthy manner?
Oh, okay. Well, for some context, this time last year, that wasn't the case. My thoughts were very, very negative. And it was before I'd started the podcast, but I really wanted to start it. But my head was like, no, who would listen to you? You're not good enough. You're not even a good example. Like all of these negative things. I was like, whoa, girl.
Settle down.
Whoa, settle down, tiger. But anyway, now we've shifted a lot.
What did you do to shift out of that?
The first thing is I started the podcast and I took action because I was like, I know that the head noise will hopefully settle down once I take action because I know this is just fear.
Yes.
And so the voice in my head is just trying to protect me.
Yes.
So I kind of looked at it as a logical way. Then I started reading Mel Robbins' like The High Five Habit. Have you heard of that?
I haven't, no, but I'm going to look into it now.
It's really beautiful.
High five habit.
Yeah. So she talks about how in the morning or whatever time you should high five yourself in the mirror instead of like saying affirmations like I'm amazing and I'm beautiful and
I've
I'm
heard
this.
you talk about this.
Yeah. Like if you don't believe it, then you can say those words, but your mind will be like, no, you're not. You're not this. You're not that. Whereas like when you high five somebody, it gives you're always high-fiving someone because you're supporting them. You're like, yeah, nice running or nice job.
That's a powerful
so
technique.
it has this like already positive feeling attached to it. So in the morning, if you just high-five yourself in the mirror, it's like, it's no bullshit. You don't have to say any words. It's you saying like, hey, I see you. Yes. I feel you. You got this, you know, without ever having to say anything.
Epic.
Yeah. And so.
That's a great practice. That's a great morning practice.
Yeah. So like literally most bathrooms, I'll high five myself. Sometimes,
just get your smudge all over
there. Sorry, if I go to your house, there will be a hand. No, sometimes I just hover it because I don't want to dirty them.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, even in public bathrooms, there'll be someone washing their hands. I'm like, should I? I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And then that
great
really,
habit to get into.
Yeah, it was a really good like starting thing. And then I just kept asking myself, whenever I caught myself in negative situations, I'd be like, if this was my sister, how would I want her to speak to herself, or what would I say to her, you know? And then I just started treating myself more like that and honoring myself, you know, being like, yeah, I deserve exercise. I deserve nutritious food. Yes. I deserve spending time with good people and stuff. So it's more like just realizing that those things are an act of self-love, even if you don't feel like doing it. You 100%. Might think like, oh, skipping the gym and having a sleep in is an act of self-love. And totally, if you're burnt out and you need it, there's a time and a place. But I think also doing the thing is an act of self-love, you know?
Yeah. And that one of the hardest things is actually just dragging yourself to those, showing up for yourself in that way.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Like,
do you just like, is it discipline? Like, do you just make a decision to go and train? Like,
yeah.
Especially through that period that you were talking about at the end of last year, like when you were experiencing all of that like self-doubt.
Yeah.
How did you just combat that through action?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't think your way out of things, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
Tony Robbins always says, stay in your head and you're dead.
Yeah, that's actually such a good quote.
So I think you have to just go and do the action and stop thinking like, I don't feel like it, or I'm not good, or I'm not worthy. Because when I started taking action, I was like, hey, you can do it. You can do hard things. You can interview big guests even though you're nervous. You can like, you know, combat that. Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. Like just doing it. Yeah, 100%. There's no point sitting around being like, oh, I'm nervous. It'll never go away. You have to take action, I think.
Yes.
That's why like you have to feel the fear and then do it anyway.
Oh, yes.
And just know that it's normal and you should feel scared.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fear is often it's just another way of limiting yourself. It's just like fear is often just self-limitation. It's about like, I think breaking down like, what is that limitation? You know, what is coming up? What am I scared of? What is fear? Like what defining these words for ourselves, you know, write it down if you want. Like, what does fear mean to you? You know, what is that? You know, and it's amazing that like I guess for anyone like listening, like what is that thing that you've always wanted to do that's just been bugging you? For me, for that whole year, it was like getting back on a high line.
Yeah. And the little voice in your head reminded you of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it will remind people.
Constantly. You know, like I think most people listening here, like there is a thing that they want to do and it just comes up most days, but there's self-limitation, there's fear. You know, I think a good question to ask is like, what's the worst that could happen if you go and do this?
Definitely.
You know, for me, it was like, I fall off the high line and I scare the shit out of myself, you know, but it's safe. It's going to catch me. I'm tied in, I'm harnessed in. But on the other side of that, what is there?
Yeah.
There's like self-confidence. There's, you know, this overwhelming feeling of being proud of like what you've gone and confronted and done.
Oh,
you know, there's nothing but growth on the other side of confronting that.
Yeah.
You know, so what's the worst that could happen? And often it's not that bad. Yeah.
That's the perfect. That's literally exactly what I ask myself. I always go, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Because when you're terrified to do it, we
put these elusive, you know, scenarios in our mind of like, you know, if I don't do this, I'm probably going to die and like the world will burn.
Yeah, I always say, I'm like, well, are you going to die? And then I'm like, no. And then I'm like, well, then you got to do it. I was like, okay. Yeah. But like, even with me starting my podcast, I had so much fear. And then I was like, Andy, what's the worst that can happen? I'm like, well, the worst that can happen is that nobody listens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, that's something I can live with because I'm still learning from the guests. So I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate you guys. But
yeah, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
For sure.
Yeah, and I was like, but we all know that's going to be a lie because my sister will listen. So she'll be my one listener.
And mum, like, you know, dad, like, you know, like the fam will listen at least. I'll make them listen.
Well, my dad's still like, what? I tried to listen on Instagram. I was like, no, Dad, you don't listen on
It's a bit of a dinosaur.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Fair enough, though. You know, in some ways, I wish I was like kind of that disconnected to technology. But I think something that just popped in for me while you were talking then was like, if you feel like you can't do something, don't feel afraid to reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you please tell me that I can do this thing?
Oh.
You know, like, you know, friend, family, anyone, like a name might come to mind, you know, and just, don't feel afraid to reach out and ask your friend like, hey, look, I'm like experiencing self-limitation towards doing this thing. I need you to tell me that I'm capable of doing this, you know, and then boom, hey man, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, oh man, that really lifts you up. Like when I need, you know, that type of chat, like the first name that came to my mind was my mate, Joel. Love you, bro. You know, but I've got a handful of beautiful friends. I'll know who they are that I will call. And I just receive exactly what I need to hear from them if I'm feeling limited or if I'm experiencing something challenging in my external world or in my internal world. And you got to use those people around you, you know, like don't feel like you're going to be a burden on someone by putting your, you know, problems on them. Like the question, you can reverse it. Like, you know, if I'm going through shit, would you want me to come to you, Andy, and say like, hey, Andy, I'm going through some shit. Can you help me out? Like, Absolutely. Of course you'd show up and you'd want to be there for me because like we're mates. But you know, like it's, you know, you would show up for your friend, therefore your friend wants to show up for you.
Yeah, and it's an honor. It's an honor when a friend reaches out and is like, hey, I'm hurting or I'm down right now and I need your help. It's like, of course. That's what friends are for.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because 100% like I can look back and be like, I just did it and I took the action. But at the same time, my sister was the one who literally said to me, she was like, because I was in England at the time, just feeling lost, down, like so much
100%.
self-doubt, and she was like, you just need to move back, move to the coast where you've always wanted to live, start a podcast and call it Attitudes with Andy. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's powerful. You know, like, we can't make it through this life on our own.
No, not
It's
at
not as
all.
fun either. Like, you got to enjoy the fruits of those beautiful relationships.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, you know, for anyone listening that may feel like they don't have those types of powerful relationships, I would encourage you to show up to spaces like the brotherhood, like the, you know, familyhood, like other community events like that. Show up to as many community events as you possibly can. You know, those like mindful, like open, you know, breathwork events, you know, like ice baths, meditation stuff. Like, you know, if you just show up to those events, you're going to meet people that are like-minded.
Totally.
You know, and then you build those beautiful relationships. And
yeah, you'll find your people.
yeah.
If you haven't
Finding
found them
your
yet,
tribe.
you will find them.
Yes. But you got to devote yourself to finding them, you know, and you got to, you know, show up for yourself. And then, you know, the universe has a unique way of like rewarding you when you show up for yourself, you know, in the form of like good friends, good opportunities, good vibes, good feels.
Yeah.
Then, so good point there. I'm glad we touched on that.
Bang.
Boom.
Yeah.
There's
How
the
do we
flavor.
even get on this? We're talking about self-talk. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes.
Anyway, but now my self-talk is lit. Like, it's really good. And I'm always like, yes, queen. And like, if I'm having a moment where I don't feel like doing something, or I'm down, or like if I'm, just like in a down mood, I'm literally like, hey, that's fine. I'm like, you're human. It's all good. Like, I'm just like very understanding and very kind to myself.
Yeah. Awesome.
And when I'm finding something hard, I always remind myself, I'm like, girl, you're allowed to find this hard. I'm like, you might have never, ever done this before.
For sure.
I'm like,
For sure.
of course you're going to find it hard. And then as soon as I'm like normalizing that I'm allowed to find it hard, it's so much easier to do it. Anywho, we love to end the podcast with the Fast Five.
Oh, the Fast Five.
The Fast Five.
Can I touch on one thing?
Absolutely. I was about to say, is there anything else you'd like to touch on?
I was going to say, like, if you ever just like feeling a little bit, I guess, down and cluttered, like one thing that I've just forgot to touch on that I just use to my advantage constantly is just going out in nature, like going for a hike, going for a walk, you know, conquering a mountain, you know, like that was like one thing that I found myself doing a lot, you know, whenever I was like in that period where I was experiencing, you know, a lot of adversity, a lot of challenge internally. I would take myself on a hike, just me. And there's just something so powerful about going and spending time in nature. You're away from technology, you're away from most humans. You know, you're just in a much more like calm, you know, open-minded and relaxed state. And that's where you can have a lot of like breakthroughs.
100%.
And camping as well. If you haven't tried camping, go camping. Like, it's so awesome. Like, actually, while I'm here, I may as well just like touch on this. Like, in the program that I'm putting out there, there's a camping guide and a hiking guide because there's like so much value that is held within nature that I feel like we don't use enough. Like, a lot of us love, like, especially I'm sure the people that, you know, listen to your podcast, like most of them get out in nature. You know, you get down to the beach, you go for a hike. Like, everyone loves hiking, but you know, nature is really powerful, and we should use, you know, use nature as like a way to kind of help us combat whatever it is that we're going through.
No, literally.
So get outside, people. Get
Yeah.
outside. I think that combined with adopting healthy habits and throwing yourself into healthy habits, meditation, breath work, ice baths, you know, rehab, saunas, you know,
all of
these types of things, everything in one day, combined with training, and, you know, obviously looking after your health and your body. And the last thing that I kind of, the fourth pillar of, I guess, like what I'm trying to embody now, in my lifestyle is, pursuing challenge and fear and stress, you know, in a safe and healthy manner. Yeah. And I guess like that's what I'm trying to put into this like program / course that I'm putting out there online, is combining all of those things to help. It's just for men as well. It's just for the moment. I'm going to create more programs, but it's just to, like help people step into themselves a little bit more through these healthy practices, through exposure to, challenging and fearful situations, through looking after your health and habits. Like, again, we've touched on habits a few times. Like, habits are so important.
Of course.
And we've got so many tools around us now. Like I said, like we've got guys running, and girls running like workshops and community events and introducing us to all of these beautiful practices like breath work and meditation, ice baths. Like, throw yourself into them, guys. Like, if you haven't done that before, like, what's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst gonna happen?
What's the nothing, man? Like, what? Like, you go there and like
you freeze to death.
Yeah, and you die from hypothermia. Like, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad, right, guys?
But yeah, I just wanted to touch on the nature point and like, I guess, summarize like what I stand for.
Yes,
that's it.
I love it. And if people want to find more information on that, they can check you out on Instagram. We'll plug that after we do the Fast Five. So you guys have to stay around for his Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Fast Five.
The first question I have for you is, what is your favorite quote?
Oh, favorite quote. That's a good one. If you think impossible exists, remember that we, the human race, are an impossibility in an impossible universe. No idea who quoted that.
I like it.
Like, oh, that's impossible. It's just like, look at us, man. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like zoom out from one technique that I like to use is like, I'll close my eyes and I'll just like zoom out and I'll just hover there in like the weightless, void of space, looking at Earth, like this beautiful big globe. It's just like, look at what we're on.
Yeah.
Look at what we are. Like, that's impossible. Like, we are limitless.
Literally.
Yeah. Humans have proven time and time again that we can, defy the impossible. We are limitless beings.
We are.
You're limitless.
Okay.
100%.
Next question. What is your favorite book?
One of the most impactful books that I've read is Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday.
Ah.
Yes.
I've heard of that one.
Yes. It's really good. Stillness, it just basically delves into how various humans from all facets of life have implemented stillness to aid their success. And I took a lot away from that book. Helped me just become much more present. And, the best word that I can attach to that is like flow. Like, it allows you to just like get into flow and just become more aware of how you're moving through space, how you're entering different environments, conversations, a lot of really great techniques that help you just become more aware and present. Yeah. Good book.
Ooh,
Ryan Holiday's got some great stuff. Basically just translates like stoicism into, modern life.
Follow him on Instagram. He has some good stuff.
Yeah. The Daily Stoic, I think, is his Instagram.
Stoic.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I think I actually need to hear that. Thank you.
It's a good book.
Okay. What is your current morning routine?
Ooh, morning routine. Well, I like to move my body a little bit. Usually I'll wake up.
Me
I've got
too.
into it's waking up. Thank God we do that every day. And yeah, like I've got into a good habit of making my bed over the last couple of years. Like when I was younger, like I was very shit at making my bed. Even like, like maybe even a year ago, there was a period where I wasn't making my bed and I was just like, life's just cluttered when you don't make your bed, man. Like it's
a sin.
It's the first thing that you do for yourself. And it's like, when you do that, like, boom, the rest of the day, like you've started the day doing something good for yourself.
Yeah.
I make my bed. I'll do some light movement, just like loosen up my spine, my neck, like do a little bit of a, hip kind of mobility, a few hip mobility exercises. And I like to make coffee, or I've actually transitioned to cacao recently.
Nice.
And I'll play music in my ears and just play some good inspiring tunes while I'm making a coffee, and I'll just like use that time to just like amp myself up and just get ready for the day. And then usually I'd drive to training and take sessions, nothing else really. Like sometimes I'll do a bit of breath work, you know, just 1 or 2 rounds of 30 breaths, bit of Wim Hof, just to get the juices flowing a little bit. Yeah, that's probably it. Nothing too crazy.
Okay, cool. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. Okay, I remember when I was going through that period, my dad hooked me up with one of our family friends who was a very successful individual. And Dad saw that I was going through a bit of shit, and he was just like, all right, I'll organize a catch up with, his name was Davo. And he was a very successful man. And we got a beer in the city. And one thing he said to me was, make yourself proud. Learn to make yourself proud. And he said, when you make yourself proud, it'll be the best beer that you've ever tasted. And it's like, that stuck with me, because I'd started to ask myself, like, how do I make myself proud? And it's, how do you show up for yourself? I've been saying this the whole podcast, it's like, what is it that you can do that will make yourself proud? And at that time, for me, it was doing something that was larger than myself. And what that was getting back on a high line for me. I was very proud of myself after that. Hence why I got so emotional. So what does that look like for you? How do you make yourself proud?
So important.
Very
it's
important.
Like, yes, it's important to have other people's trust, but if you don't have your trust, then you're fucked.
Yep.
And then, making yourself proud, that's a beautiful feeling.
Yep. That's probably the best advice that's the advice that stuck with me the most.
Yeah. Do you feel proud of yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. It hit me when I completed the course that I'm putting out there soon. I was just like, holy shit. Like, this is the first thing that I've created that I'm really passionate about.
Oh.
Yeah. And it also, like, my whole, like, experience from when I started feeling this depression till now flashed before my eyes, because I realized that all the stuff that I've put into this project of mine has all the value there that I'm now sharing with people has stemmed from the adversity that I've faced and overcame through that period. It's just like, whoa, like, it just all of a sudden made everything that I went through so purposeful.
100%.
In the moment, I'm like, why the fuck is this happening to me? Like, victim.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's my responsibility now to share the value that I've taken from that period, like universe, God, fate, whatever you want to call it. We've all got a different version of it. I feel like has gifted me with all of these challenges so that I can instill the same lessons that I've taken away from those periods in others and help them through the same sort of challenges.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's so good that you've got that outcome.
I'm proud.
It does suck that is the truth, that we have to go through these hard times.
Yes.
Like, we
Yes.
have to, because from these hard times you make decisions. Like,
Totally.
it almost corners you into a room where you have to just completely change direction. And they're such blessings.
Yes.
Like,
Such a good point, Andy.
apart from people passing away, I'll never be able to justify that. But like, things like heartbreak or losing your job or maybe going broke or whatever it is, like, those things are cornering you
Totally
to have to make decisions.
Totally. 100%. That's such a good point. Like, if you're in the ruts, if you're in the trenches right now,
There's a reason.
Really hard to see that there is value in it, but trust me, like, there is value there. Like, if you're a good person and, like, you have good intentions and you're a kind person and all this shit's happening to you, like, I guarantee you it's happening for a reason. Like, start searching for it. Start putting your attention there. It's just like, these things are happening to you for a reason, and they're incredibly powerful. Like, the most valuable, like, knowledge that I've attained in my life experience has come from those challenging periods, and like, that's why now I, like, wouldn't take back any of that, because that's made me who I am today. And, like, I believe that I'm going to help a lot of people, like, through my career and my purpose. And it's all thanks to that shit that I went through. So just trust that, like, it's happening for a reason, and start to put your attention towards what those reasons are, because, you may not know straight away.
Yeah.
But, like, you will.
Yeah. You might not know, but you just need to, like, take a few steps in the right direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well said, dude. Good point.
Thank you.
Point.
Yeah. I always tell myself, like, I don't know if this is like, I don't know, it's too much self-love, but I always tell myself that.
Never too much.
Like, never too much. I'm always like, there's no way you've gone through what you've gone through and you've met all these people and you've got all this experience to not do what you're meant to do.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, everything has lined up for you. You were meant to go through all of that hard stuff so that you can be so helpful to
100%.
others.
And aren't you just doing a fine job at that, my friend?
Well, thanks so much. Same to you too.
Yeah. Are you proud of yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You should be, dude.
Yeah.
Hell
Thank
yeah.
you.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're doing it right.
Thanks. The last question.
The last one. The last melon. Just a little Ice Age reference there.
Folks, toxic trait is quoting movie quotes that I don't know.
Oh, God. Ice Age, man. Come on.
I don't remember all the Okay, anyway. Moving on.
Yeah, sorry.
If you could embed one habit into the listeners' lives to better their lives, you don't know who they are, how old they are. So it's going to be a good habit.
It's got to be a good one.
What habit would it be?
I like to say that the day starts in the evening. So I would say set yourself up for the next day, the evening before, executing a good evening routine. You know, what I like to do is stretch, listen to a potty, and wind my brain down while I do that. And then I'll do a bit of reading, and then I'll meditate myself to sleep. Sometimes I slip up, you know, and I get caught in the scroll. And I wake up the next day and my day doesn't start as good. So that's kind of like one of my mottos. Like the day starts in the evening. So look after your mind, look after yourself, get good rest. And yeah, just look after your sleep. Try and get away from the screens. Those nasty screens in the evening, that blue light's not going to do you good. So yeah, look after, get a good sleep.
Get a good sleep. You heard it here first.
You heard it first, folks.
Okay, amazing. And if the people want to find you, what's your Instagram handle?
Oh, my gram. It's just Ferg Baker. That's it.
He does baking videos.
Haven't heard that joke before. I bake lots of tasty treats. Oh, I should have brought you some. What's your favorite treat?
Corn.
What? You're such a weirdo, but I love it. No, come on. I'm talking about baked treats.
Oh, I just love
Corn,
sweet.
dude. Corn on the cob with lots of butter and salt.
Oh, I like that, but also like in the can.
No, dude. No judgment, no judgment.
I really panicked. I was like, holy shit.
Dude, no judgment. I'll back it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll maybe we should, try some sometime. I might go get myself a can of corn and just see what the fuss is about. Goat's milk and corn. Oh, I love you, dude.
I love you too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll sign off there.
Yeah, we're going to sign off. If you guys enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it around, put it on your story, all that good stuff. It really helps.
Yes.
You guys can leave a review if you're feeling crazy. Please put 5 stars, but you can also leave 1 if you hate me. Go follow the podcast Instagram. It's Attitudes with Andy. I'm posting so much more on there than my personal one. But if you want to check out my personal one, it's andy.bentley_ as well. But seriously, everyone, follow the podcast page, please.
Well, follow that podcast.
Follow
please.
it.
5 star.
And you can press, subscribe, and follow on all the things. Anyway, enough plugging. We're going to plug out. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful, wonderful day.
Thank you so much, guys.
And I'll see y'all next week for another episode.
And thank you, legend. Thank you very much.
Another fist bump. Okay, bye.
We're out.